One seed is all it takes to grow a forest. One candle can light a dark room. One voice is enough, speaking words of love. Each moment becomes what we choose. Do you want a new world? A world that works for everyone? Open your heart and let it be. We can become the new world. Mother Earth beneath the sky. She's waiting for you and for me.
Good morning, beloved community. I am Reverend Elisha, and I am so grateful that you have chosen to spend your Sunday morning with us here at the Center for Spiritual Living, Santa Cruz. I want to say thanks to those of you who are tuning in on YouTube, those who are tuning in on Facebook, and for those of us who are logging in on Zoom. We're trying to create a community atmosphere around our Sunday morning service, so there's a Zoom component that's going to be expanding here in the next few weeks, so look forward to that. We are the Center for Spiritual Living in Santa Cruz here in the Live Oak District, and our building, our community here is on the Amamutsan tribal land, who are the first peoples of America whose land on which we stand. We have a lovely morning planned for you. Our theme of the month is One Journey, Many Paths. And we have a new song of the month for February. The song is Seasons of Love. I'm pretty sure you're going to know it. But it's performed by the Chris Lombardi a cappella virtual choir. And we'll be hearing the same song at the beginning of service each week in February, but it will be performed by a different virtual choir each time. So here's Seasons of Love.
525,600 minutes, 525,000 moments so dear, 525,600 minutes. How do you measure a year? In daylights, in sunsets, in midnights, in cups of coffee, in inches, in miles, in laughter and strife. In 525,600 minutes, how do you measure a year in life? How about love? How about love? How about love? Measuring love. Seasons of love. Seasons of love.
525,600 minutes, 525,000 journeys to the land, 525,600 minutes. How do you measure the life of a woman or a man? In truths that she learned, or in times that he cried, in bridges he burned, or the way that she died. It's time now to sing out love story never ends. Let's
Celebrate, remember, a year in the life of friends. Remember the love. You got to remember the love. You know that love is a gift from above. Share love.
Well, that was lovely. We are the Center for Spiritual Living Santa Cruz, part of the global organization of Centers for Spiritual Living, and I want to invite you this morning to affirm our center's centering statement, to affirm who we are and why we're here. And so if you will, speak these words aloud with me. Take a breath first. And here we go. We are a spiritually progressive community that transforms lives and the world through a philosophy of possibility thinking and responding to life with love. That's who we are, and that's why we're here, and thank you for joining us once again this morning. We have a lovely morning planned for you. Our beloved senior minister, Reverend Alice, is our inspirational speaker today. We have more music from the Chris Lombardi a cappella virtual choir, and I'm also your practitioner of the day as well. So, we're going to move into our time of centering, of spiritual practice. And so, if you will, I just want you to take a deep breath in. And contemplate these words by Adyashanti. Enlightenment is a destructive process. It has nothing to do with becoming better or being happier. Enlightenment is the crumbling away of untruth. It's seeing through the facade of pretense. It's the complete eradication of everything we imagined to be true. And so I invite you to take another deep breath in, and if it's comfortable for you, to close your eyes. And take another deep breath. And as we breathe together, my friends, let us be in the awareness that there is something greater than we are that breathes us. That there is an infinite, seamless presence, a consciousness that we call God, that is living and breathing throughout the entirety of the universe, that is unfolding in every life, that is spinning the planets and the galaxies, that is shining the sun and the stars, that is growing the trees and the grass, that is living and breathing as each one of us, as all beings everywhere, God and only God. And so let us breathe into that awareness this morning as we remember who and what we are as children of God, as manifestations of the universe, as evolution in action. Let us remember the truth of our being. And how sweet it is to be in community, even if that community is virtual, even if that community is spread all over the place. How good it is to know that we are part of a community of mind who is always looking for our common unity, who is always seeking the greater good, who is always seeking to bring ourselves into greater alignment with the truths that we are seeking. And so I know that I am blessed to be part of this community that we call Center for Spiritual Living Santa Cruz. And I just uplift everyone who is tuning in, who is part of the broadcast team, to our beloved Reverend Alice as she speaks and allows herself to be the vessel for truth. I just give thanks for this container that we call community. And so let each one of us remember that indeed there is a call for us to remember that there is indeed a power for good in this universe that is greater than we are. And so let us live in service to it. Let us open our lives to be a place where that good reveals itself in the world. Let each one of us be a place where God shows up every day. And with that, I simply say yes, and so it is.
When the night has come,
Oh, and the land is dark, and the moon is the only light we'll see.
no, I won't be afraid. No, I won't be afraid.
Just as long as you stand by me, and darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. If the sky that we look upon should
So darling, darling, stand by me.
Stand by me. Oh, stand now. Stand by me.
Stand by me.
So darling, darling, stand by me. Stand by me. Stand by me.
Darling, darling, stand by me.
By me,
Stand by me.
stand by me.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so happy to be with you here on this first Sunday in February. This is Love Month, and so we'll be singing about love as we start our time together with our Song of the Month. I love that song, Seasons of Love, because it really reminds us about who we are, reminds us about the things that are important to us. We're here almost a year into this pandemic, and so it's another reminder that this too can be a season of love. So we are indeed talking about many paths but one journey. And last month we looked at this idea of timeless wisdom and evolutionary vision that's embodied in our declarations of principle and our global vision. And so as we look at this idea of universal truths, today I want to talk about clean slates. Yep, that's right, clean slates. Seems like that would be something we would be talking about on January 1st. But no, we use January to really ground ourselves in our wisdom of this teaching and this philosophy. And so now it's time to really pay attention to what a clean slate can give to us. It really represents new beginnings, and we can step into a clean slate at any time. But it also represents endings. There is a perpetual cycle of newness and beginnings and endings that we're always working with in this thing we call life. And that quote this morning from Adyashanti starts out by saying that enlightenment is a destructive process, the crumbling away of untruths. And he's talking about our need and our ability to really let go of our attachments, to let go of the illusions that we hold on to so dearly. What I know is that Spirit is always recreating itself. With every thought we have, with every action we take, it's always moving through us, as us, and by us. And as it recreates, we have the power to step into a place of choice, to make little decisions, sometimes really big decisions, but every choice we make is a choice that we are making as we're stepping into that co-creative power and of the love that created everything that we experience in the world. And sometimes, maybe it only happens to me, but sometimes I get a little lost in what I've created. I get a little stuck on what I've created. I get a little attached to the building that I've been doing of whatever it is, the project that I happen to be working on. I'm pretty attached to this thing called Centers for Spiritual Living. I'm pretty attached to this thing that we do on Sunday mornings where we come together. I'm so attached to it that when the world shifted on its axis and we could no longer be together, I was absolutely bent on figuring out another way for us to connect. And here we are almost a year later, and we're still able to be together, and we're looking at new ways to connect as we begin to reincorporate Zoom into our, not only our classes, but now in our Sunday service as well. So starting next week, you'll be able to join us through Zoom and see the other people who are on Zoom along with you. And yes, that's a good attachment, but at the same time, I have to hold all of that a little lightly as well. And if 2020 and coronavirus and even 2021 now haven't taught me nothing, it's taught me that I need to be flexible and I need to hold it all lightly. I remember a couple of months ago, you may remember too, that I told this story about the Tower of Babel, and it's a pretty complex story, and so this morning I want to look at another piece of it. So as you recall, the story goes that the world was once united as one family, and that tribe decided to build a tower so tall that no matter how far one of their beloveds wandered, they would always find their way home. Well, a tower of that magnitude took generations to build. And so the version of the story that I told came from a book that Mark Nepo wrote called More Together Than Alone. And I just want to share a couple of his words with you because it's so beautiful the way he says this, tells this story. The entire tribe was united behind this purpose, but it took much longer than anyone imagined. By the time the third generation assumed the task, the tower, still incomplete, was so high that it took a worker almost a year to carry the brick to its place. But the grandchildren of the original builders really didn't care and really didn't have that same devotion for this job. It felt more like a chore for them, having to build someone else's dreams. Without their own devotion, it wasn't long before the press of the task consumed them. Finally, one day, a worker carrying the next brick fell, and they mourned the brick over the worker. That story strikes me the way Mark tells it because it reminds me of getting lost in the task. I spoke a little earlier about this technology thing that we've been working on all year. I can't tell you how easy it is for me to get completely lost in the task and forget that the whole purpose is to connect. The whole purpose is to stay together. The whole purpose is to remember and recall and continue to be a community even when the world tells us we can't come together. And so when I think about my own experience with the technology in our community and that story with the Tower of Babel, I think this is true for a lot of us. I don't think I'm alone in this. I think we can really get lost in the task, that even some of the tasks that we do are tasks that were handed down to us, that we took on because it was someone else's devotion, it was someone else's passion. Well, this teaching, this philosophy that we work with, this that we teach in classes, that we talk about on Sunday morning, it doesn't really work on someone else's steam. Now, that doesn't mean that I can't go and work with a prayer practitioner who can pray and help me to move my mind so that I can connect to my own passion and I can connect to my own intentions and then move forward. But I can't really phone it in. I can't really, just hand it over to someone else and not cultivate what it is I want to create, what it is I need to intend. And so oftentimes when we're building something and we get lost in it, we forget the source behind everything. So cultivating or connecting with a clean slate allows us to reconnect to the creative process that, whether we are aware of it or not, whether we are engaging it intentionally or not, it is always moving as us, by us, and through us. One of my favorite saints has this beautiful prayer where she calls upon God to use her hands and use her feet, use her mind and use her heart, so that she may create as the beloved. And that's really how this creative process works. It works through us, as us, and by us. It uses my hands. It uses my lips. It uses my heart. It uses my mind. And so for many of us, thinking about a clean slate when we're in the middle of everything that's going on around us, there's still a lot to navigate in this day of pandemic. There's still a lot to navigate with the politics that are going on. It hasn't gotten any easier since we've clocked over to 2021. There's still a lot that we haven't figured out. And so oftentimes, coming to a clean slate often comes about through something painful or messy. I know that's how it happens for me often. We lose a loved one, we end a relationship, we lose a job. Those are the kinds of things that often happen in our lives to create that open, clean slate that I'm talking about. And while it's painful to move through those kinds of transitions, it's also an opportunity to invite in some newness. And clean slates can also come about through some kind of passionate endeavor that we're working towards and moving forward to, taking on a new job, moving to a new place, starting a new relationship. All these are opportunities as well to create that clean slate and start anew. And even those, even when we're like all excited and it's what we really want and it's the dreams that are moving us forward, even then it's messy because we have to step out of one reality and move into another. And messy is one thing, but sometimes we suffer, right? Sometimes we suffer through these transitions, and most of the suffering that we experience is because we're hanging on. Well, I'd like to suggest that the suffering isn't there to punish us, but awaken us, to give us this opportunity to consciously move through transitions, to come to that place of, oh, this is a clean slate, this is a new beginning, this is something I want to create very intentionally and consciously, and be ready to release those things that might be in the way. Today, I can stand here and tell you that that job I lost many years ago or that marriage that ended were the best things that ever happened to me, but in the middle, or even especially in the beginning, you couldn't have convinced me otherwise, that it wasn't there to cause me great pain and hardship. What I've found is that the more I hold on, the harder it is to let go. But my friends, there is so much magic in the clean slate. There's so much possibility when we can truly let go and trust that we are in the right place at the right time with the right people, getting ready to create from a clean and fresh perspective. I remember well the pain I went through when my 31-year marriage ended unexpectedly. It was not what I had anticipated. I was in it for the long haul. It wasn't the ideal relationship, but that's what marriage was about. And when it ended, something in me knew that it was time. And because I had the tools of this philosophy, I knew that I had to feel the feelings. I knew that I had to move through the pain, but not hold on to it. I knew that if I held on to the suffering, that it would keep me stuck. And so I utilized the tools of this philosophy that I had been so well trained in. I worked with a prayer practitioner. I had prayer partners that I worked with. I worked with spiritual mind treatment. I did more meditation. I created more stillness. I opened myself up to greater possibility, and that came from practicing the presence, of allowing myself to be still. And I think the rest of that is be still and know that I am God. And so to know that this too was for my best interest and to really move through it. And the optimum phrase there is through. When things fall apart and we experience suffering, there is an opportunity for us to allow things to move up and out. And I don't think I'm that different, that when things fall apart, when we experience that loss or that transition, it's almost like there's a chasm that opens up within us. And there's an opportunity for us to really allow all that doesn't serve, whatever wants to come up, to allow it to come up and move out so that we can really be in that place of a clean slate, of letting go of our expectations and instead stepping into intentions. You know, as we move through this year of, and coming to the close of a full year of this coronavirus, lockdown and pandemic and crazy politics, there's so much that has been lost. There is so much that has fallen away. There's so many things that many of us grieve. I can't help but wonder what we'll find on the other side as we continue to walk this out, as we continue to move through this process of letting go. I think about our community here at Centers for Spiritual Living Santa Cruz. You know, last February, I had a plan. I had a beautiful plan. It was several pages long, and it had, you know, we were going to do some great activities. The community was really beginning to grow and blossom, and everything changed in a matter of weeks. I mean, a matter of weeks, and I know I'm not unique. We've all had that experience. Everything changed. And it's tempting to want to sort of take the blocks that, you know, we have this structure that we've created, our own little towers of Babel, and the bricks have all fallen down, and it's tempting to want to recreate exactly what we had before. What a waste that would be, to move through everything that we have moved through over the last year and not recreate it from a place of passion and a place of newness and a place of possibility. And so that's our invitation right now as we look towards cultivating a clean slate. It is to really trust that whatever's breaking down is breaking down for a reason, not for us to hold it together with all our might, but to let it fall away, so that we can come home to ourselves again in a renewed fashion, in a way that truly allows us to be present with the source of it all that's moving through each one of us. If you're like me, you can sometimes feel like you're just doing your thing, right? You're the one doing it all. You're the one who's on the front lines. You're the one who's, you know, doing the job that you're doing, or moving through the illness, or, you know, trying to make ends meet from day to day. Whatever it is that you find yourself in the middle of, I want you to remember that you are not doing this alone. Like, you are not some individual out there in the desert who has been tasked with this thing called life to live on your own. No, we can do this together. We can support each other, and you can bring your whole self to this process by being willing to be conscious and available to it. What I know about this community is the things that, while there's still some things that are going to change, and we're in the midst of that right now, there are some things that are perennial. The love that we have for one another, the ability to really support each other, to remind each other, and to reflect to one another the higher understanding of that one infinite reality that recreates itself by means of you and by means of me. That will never change. We might rearrange some furniture. We might change the way that we come together. We might look at the motivation underneath why we do things. Our leadership came together this year, and our theme for leadership this year is designing to thrive. We are designed to thrive. And that's true of all humanity, and that's true of you, and that's true of this community. So as we take on new initiatives, as we decide to do things, they will be designed to thrive. We'll look for the passion and the motivation and the gifts that are wanting to be shared through whatever we decide to do. Our philosophy, this thing called science of mind, in our global vision speaks to this idea of a world that works for everyone. Our global vision in the long form states, we envision humanity awakening to its spiritual magnificence and discovering the creative power of thought, a world where each and every person discovers their own personal power and the ability to create an individual life that works within a world that works for everyone. Now, when you hear those words, that's a big idea. And you might be like me, where you're thinking, well, this is the world right now, and there's this idea of a world that works for everyone. It ain't working right now. How am I gonna get there from here? Well, to realize this beautiful vision, we need to start at a clean slate. We need to be willing to start anew, to look with fresh eyes. And we do that by using the timeless wisdom found in the spiritual practices that we teach. Practices like practicing the presence, being present with Source, self-awareness, that practice of really paying attention to our thoughts, and then being in the stillness, allowing things to settle enough so that we can move forward consciously and intentionally. Our task, my friends, is to live from a space of clarity and possibility that encompasses mind, body, and heart. And we're called to these spiritual practices regularly. We release thoughts of past or future and ground ourselves in the present. There are a myriad of ways to practice the presence. And core methods such as spiritual mind treatment, meditation, mindfulness, serve to silence the mind, to settle us, to give us permission to be still long enough to engage in things that really feed us. Things like sacred service, being in nature, taking time apart or taking time with friends, listening to music, doing something creative, laughter, honoring our body temple. My friends, this is a time of great opportunity. Join me as I move us to a place of prayer so that we can be willing to let go, to let that clean slate rise up, and then to build from there consciously. So if you will, take a deep breath. And allow that breath to move through your entire body temple. And as you center yourself, allow your mind to move from the place that you are in right now to a place of remembering your wholeness, remembering that power and that presence that makes the grass grow, that keeps the sun and the moon in the sky, is the same presence that consciously co-creates with you. And so as we recall our holiness, as we recall our deep connectedness and our oneness with this power and this presence, I know that each one of us makes space. It takes time to slow down, to allow ourselves to recall what it is that we are passionate about, to bring our dreams forward, to lead us and guide us into where it is we need to be. To trust that we are not in this by ourselves, that this isn't just some rock spinning in the third planet from the sun and things are happening randomly. No, there is power and presence and purpose to everything. And so we allow ourselves to be still, to do that deep inner listening so that we too know our part in not only creating a world that works for us, but creating a world that works for everyone. And while this global vision, this beautiful ideal may seem very far away, what I know that anything that big cannot be done on our own. It requires full engagement with the presence, full engagement with God. And when we remember who we are and where we've come from and what we've come here to do, and when we remember that we are completely empowered by a spirit that is so loving that it is forever pouring itself into each one of us, and when we can allow that power and that presence to move through our body temples with complete liberty, we will begin to see what is our part in manifesting that beautiful vision of a world that works for everyone. So join me in this heart of possibility, knowing that we've been given a clean slate, that the world has indeed shifted on its axis, that all the timetables have stopped, that everything that we've been doing for generations is beginning to shift, because this vision is worthy of that clean slate, worthy of our willingness to step into that place of possibility and being part of creating this beautiful new world that we envision for ourselves and for all of humanity and for everything in this universe. I simply release this prayer back into the love from which it came, knowing that the words that I speak are indeed the words of God, that there is a power and a presence that is choosing to manifest by means of each one of us. And so I simply anchor this prayer in that very formidable power. And together we say, and so it is.
I don't know you, but I want you all the more for that. Words fall through me and always fool me, and I can't react. And games that never amount to more than they're meant will play themselves out. Take this sinking boat and point it home. We've still got time. Raise your hopeful voice. You have a choice. You make it now. Falling slowly, eyes that know me, and I can't go back. And moods that take me and erase me, and I'm painted black. Well, you have suffered enough and warred with yourself. It's time that you won. Take this sinking boat and point it home. We've still got time. Raise
Well, that was beautiful. Join me in this affirmation, my friends. Take a breath, and let's speak these words out loud. I open myself to receive great prosperity, health, and healing. Gratefully, I receive the gift that I am seeking. I accept my good and send it on to bless all humanity. I am thankful to be so richly supplied and able to serve. I am fully blessed, and so it is. And so, my friends, this is the part in the service where first I just want to begin by saying thank you. First and foremost, thank you to our broadcast staff, to Nancy Laskagian, to Stacy Byerly, and Susan Pankratz. You wouldn't be able to see or hear any of this without them, so thank you to our tech team for making this virtual service possible. We had beautiful music from the Chris Lombardi a cappella virtual choir today, and our beloved Reverend Alice had some powerful words for us. I want to thank each of you for tuning in, for being part of our Sunday morning, for making us part of your Sunday morning. I want to thank all of our CSL sustainers, who are those of you who continuously and generously give your financial prosperity, your abundance, your flow to keep this community alive and thriving. If you find what we're doing here powerful and inspirational or useful, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, share this with a friend. And there are many, many, many ways that you can give. We have 5 portals for you to share with the community your gifts of money, which is God in action. And so thank you for all the ways that you support our community so that our community can support you. I want to remind you, share with you once again, that myself and Reverend Alice are going to be team teaching a class this year that we're calling Applied Spirituality. And it's actually a year-long course that's going to happen in 3 10-week terms, and it's going to be starting this spring, or the early in March. And we call this class Applied Spirituality because it's really about taking a deep examination of the principles and practices that we're talking about here at the center constantly, but having an opportunity to take them and sort of dissect them, look at them, and sort of look at some different areas of our lives. And so we're really, this first term, we're going to be looking at sort of what are the mental causes, the mental structures in mind that really bring some of our experience into us. And we're going to be looking at some sort of intimate and juicy things like addiction and sexuality, and death will come up in these conversations. And so there's a lot to explore. And the thing that the big invitation that I want to extend is that, in this time of social distance, in this time of COVID where we can't necessarily meet in person, I have found in my classes and in a lot of the virtual spaces that I've been communing in that the class space, the Zoom space, is really a beautiful opportunity for us to come together and see each other's faces, to hear what's going on in each other's minds, to actually converse face to face, even if it's virtual. And I find that there's a deep sense of community that happens when we can actually be in the process together. And so if you're really missing a sense of community, of conversation, of spiritual cultivation in a group, I think the class would be a really beautiful place for us to come together as a community and do some deep spiritual work together. So contemplate whether this is for you or not. I would like to say that perhaps it is. And I would love to see you there. I know Reverend Alice would love to see you there. And anyone in our community or communities beyond who are seeing this, if you're thinking about perhaps ever going into practitioner training or wanting to step even deeper into your own spiritual path in the Centers for Spiritual Living, this class is actually part of that curriculum as well. So this would be a prerequisite for the next class we're going to be teaching next year, which would be inviting some of you into the practitioner fold. So be in all of that contemplation about this upcoming class that starts in March, called Applied Spirituality, A Journey Home to Collective and Individual Wholeness. Another great opportunity is coming up this month, and this is our annual Centers for Spiritual Living conference. This is for our whole national and global community. This is also the business meeting of the organization, but so much more happens in this virtual space. There's talks, there's workshops, there's music, and I think that our little communities can become kind of insular sometimes, and I think it's a great opportunity with the Vista virtual convention for those of us here in our Santa Cruz community to tap into the realization and to the actuality that Centers for Spiritual Living is a large movement around our nation, North and South America, and around the planet. And to tune into the greater organization, to hear some of the big names, the big voices, the music, the message, to see people from centers all over meeting in these virtual spaces. It's really an inspirational and exciting it's an exciting opportunity to really see what the greater movement of Centers for Spiritual Living is all about. And so you can find more information about that on the church website, and I'll be attending, Reverend Alice will be attending, there's many of us that will be there virtually, and so I encourage you to check that out. As you may have, if you were here in the beginning of service, you may have heard me say that we are testing out bringing the Zoom room into an element of our service, which is currently open now. There's a handful of people in the Zoom room who got to watch service together, and we're going to be opening that up more and more in the next couple weeks, again, as a place for us just to be able to see each other on Sunday morning when we're engaged in our Sunday morning service, as opposed to just streaming into your living room or your office, wherever you are. You could be streaming back in, and we could be seeing you. And so that room is going to be open, and in the next couple weeks, I'm going to be facilitating a little bit of a spiritual practice or community time before service. So the Zoom room will be open maybe 20 minutes or half an hour, and we'll be letting you know more about that before the service for a little time of meditation, prayer, spiritual practice. And then, of course, we open it up afterwards for the talk after the talk. And so that's another place that we regularly have to call in after the after the streaming service to have a little conversation. But since the Zoom room is already open and in the following weeks will be open, we're just going to, instead of waiting until 11:30, we're going to just start that talk after the talk immediately after the service. And so once we shut down the broadcast, I'm going to run into the other room, hop onto the Zoom call, and then we'll engage in our conversation, and we'll have that space open for about a half an hour. Reverend Alice and myself will be there. And it's, again, just one more opportunity to actually get to engage with each other and be in a little bit of that felt sense of community. So we'll see you in the Zoom room, 831-000-1818 with a password of 1818 for the talk after the talk. I think the only other thing I need or would like to remind you about is, of course, the Project to Connect, which meets Monday through Saturday. That's almost every day of the week at 1 p.m., and that's just a place to call in. We always have a prayer practitioner and a facilitator there on the call, and that's a place for you to just call in. We usually have an affirmation. We share our gratitudes. There's a space to just share anything on your heart, anything on your mind, whatever's up for you that day, unfiltered. It's a space to just be honest. What's going on for you today? And then we take a prayer request and we pray for everybody. And sometimes it goes pretty quick. Sometimes we're there for about an hour. It depends on how many people are there. But I encourage you, if you ever just need prayer, if you ever just need community, if you ever just want to share something that you're grateful for, call in to 666-000-6060 with a password of 6060 any day of the week at 1 p.m. I believe that I have covered everything. Reverend Alice will be our speaker again next week. Thanks again for tuning in. I think we've had a beautiful service this morning. I know I've enjoyed it. And I just want to share a couple, I take notes. And so I've been looking at, what did I get out of this today? And maybe you can think about what you got out of it today. And I wrote down a few one-liners, and then when I looked at my page at the end, I realized I kind of found a whole complete thought strewn out through this thing. So what I got today was that enlightenment is a destructive process. So be flexible, but hold it all lightly. The more I hold on, the harder it is to let go. So if I let go of expectations, I can move into intentions. It's all about practicing the presence. So happy Sunday. Thanks for joining us. I'll see you in the talk after the talk. We'll see you in Project to Connect. We'll see you in class. We'll see you on Zoom. Have a good week.